it can be as simple as this, but it doesn't mean that it's easy to do. It's the communication. I'd say it's the biggest thing. It just sounds so like really just communicate, but people don't do it well enough. It's communication, but it takes a plan, conscientious effort, and something that you put in your calendar to be doing on a regular basis, not just, oh, I feel like speaking to the SEO guys today. Google will give the paid search department a lot of love because, yeah, we are spending, that's how they're making their profits. Let's break down that wall. There's no silos anymore. We work together, we win together.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Search with Candour. I am your host, Jack Chambers Ward, and if you're watching us on YouTube, please do like, subscribe, share the video around and help us grow in 2025. I've got some big plans and some big goals for this year, so I would hugely appreciate any support you can do to share Search with Candour around and help us basically get recommended in the YouTube algorithm and all that kind of stuff, since I know a lot about algorithms, but YouTube is still a learning process for me and for the team here at Candour. So hugely appreciate if you could like and subscribe on the YouTube video if you haven't already. Anyway, all of that out of the way, I am joined this week by the one and only, the marketing Anu herself, Anu Adegbola, to basically talk about how us as SEOs and PPC teams can actually learn a lot from each other. Maybe we can even share some tools, share some data. What are the kind of common threads that we can really kind of connect between the two sides, or what I think a lot of people think of as the two key parts of a lot of digital marketing strategies, and how we can make them work better together, right? I think we all strive to work better together, and I know I talked about this a lot all throughout last year with a lot of different guests about how we need to stop thinking about SEO in a silo and really think about how we can work better together with the other aspects of website development, UX, SEO, working with PPC and working with digital PR and all this kind of stuff. Hopefully this conversation is really helpful for you if you are working in an SEO team and maybe you have an external PPC team as well that you need to communicate with. This will help you get a better understanding of where they're coming from Anu's side of things, and how us as SEOs can learn a lot from them and vice versa. So stay tuned for all of that coming up on this week's episode.
If you're not already using or you don't know what AutoAsk is, let me give you 3 reasons you should be using it. Number 1, AutoAsk gives you the intent blueprint directly from Google to help you make the best possible content. You get live pre-clustered searcher questions that are bang up to date, the majority of which aren't available from big keyword research tools. This is for any country or any language that Google supports, and you can quickly download it and export it in graphical or text format. Number 2, AutoAsk's timeline feature shows you when a topic's intent has changed. This lets you know when you need to refresh and update your content, and crucially, what has changed, what people are asking right now. Number 3, AutoAsk's API allows you to integrate with popular tools like Screaming Frog and ChatGPT to automate tasks like content gap discovery. Set it up with Screaming Frog and you can press a button to get a list of questions your content misses on every single URL. You can try AutoAsk for free right now. Just go and put a search term in the box. Everybody gets 90 searches per month for free. You don't even need an account. If you do want to sign up, you can cancel at any time with a monthly account, or if you do want to commit to an annual account, you'll get an additional 20% off. If you're still unsure, check out some of the brilliant case studies and guides below this video.
My guest this week is an international PPC consultant who has worked in digital marketing for over 15 years. She's an award-winning speaker that has spoken at conferences around the world. She is the paid media editor at Search Engine Land. She's the founder of PPC Live, with an upcoming event on the 6th of February 2025, in case you haven't already checked that out. And she's also the host of the PPC Chat and the PPC Chat Roundup podcast with over 300 episodes. I know, even more than Search with Candour. Welcome to the show, Anu Adegbola.
Oh, that was such an amazing intro. Welcome, Jack. So lovely to be here.
Thank you for coming on, mate. I know we've chatted many times at conferences and online and bits and pieces, and had the worlds of SEO and PPC crossover a couple of times and things like that. I know we've both been doing podcasts and community building and cross paths many times. So it's finally nice to actually sit down and have a conversation with you about how SEO and PPC can work together better, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is definitely a long time coming. We're sorry, guys, we've made you wait so long.
Exactly. You've been doing your podcast for we're coming up on 300 episodes,
Yeah,
and you're I think you're about 20 or 30 episodes ahead of us. So we're pretty close. I'm
yeah,
catching up. I'm catching
yeah.
up. And if you don't already know, folks watching and listening, I kind of specialize in SEO and kind of do more podcasty stuff and general marketing and event stuff these days. And you very much, I know you've dipped your toes in SEO and done other bits of digital marketing as well, Anu, but you
Yeah.
are very much the paid search kind of person when it comes to all the writing you do, or the events you host, the podcast you do, all that kind of stuff. So should we start with where a lot of people are going wrong? Because I think this is as you said, a conversation a long time coming. This was definitely part of seemingly like the theme of 2024 for
Yeah.
Search with Candor was everybody saying we need to work better with the other departments in our industries, whether it's the UX side of things, whether it's the
Mhm.
CRO side of things, whether it's PPC and SEO all working together. Where do you think people are going wrong with that when it comes to making PPC and SEO work together and get the most benefit out of it?
This might seem like a very simple answer, but it can be as simple as this, but it doesn't mean that it's easy to do. It's the communication. I'd say it's the biggest thing. It just sounds so like really just communicate, but people don't do it well enough. A lot of even like when we were using Twitter much or more often. I don't know whether you use it as much since some of the big changes that happened, but like there was very much like SEO chat happening, PPC chat happening, Facebook chat, and we were all in our lanes. There were never like SEO PPC chat or and fair enough. It's each industry. I'm not saying SEOs, you guys were not talking to us. PPC folks, we were not doing great as
we,
well.
we're all guilty. We're all
We're
guilty.
all guilty. We're all guilty. And, yeah, to even like drop in a little note about some new plans I have for this year for the podcast is I want to start talking more to in-house PPC folks because from my experience when I was working in in-house, I really loved that because we'd have like let's say a monthly meeting where we'd have with PPC folks will sit with the SEO folks, will sit with the email folks, will sit with every area of marketing. We'll have one big report showing everybody's numbers against each other, on like weekly, monthly basis. So you kind of see similar trends of what's going on with yours and other channels. And it was a lot of the time, and actually made me feel good because, maybe there was a week where we did really badly and we were scratching our heads going, oh my God, what went wrong? Was it us? And then you see that SEO also had that same bad week. An email also had that same bad week. And you're like, maybe it's not us. Maybe it's not actually just something that's happened to us. Maybe it's, something wider. Maybe it's actually something's on the website that's happened or something that higher ups, a decision that they've made that they've not realized has affected all our different channels. So really, I think that is a big starting point. Doing a lot more communication, sharing your data, not being too nervous about the word audit. Every time I remember years ago, you'd hear, "Oh yeah, they want to do a PPC audit," and everybody goes, "Are they about to find out all my mistakes? Oh my God, what did I do?" Like not being scared about those things because an audit is someone will still need to implement the changes that they're gonna talk about, and it's not 90%. It's not gonna be the person who has created the audit. They probably don't want to do that. They just want to be like, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong, this is right, and then you go on and make yourself look good by improving a whole bunch of stuff, in the accounts. And when you look, I always found it that when you're the kind of person, and I'm sure even SEOs have this, when you're looking at one, like let's say, like a channel, I'm trying to improve something on a week on week basis, you miss things. Someone who has not been looking at it at all will come and just see something that you didn't see, and it's a human thing. I'm sure that if you go down a YouTube like wormhole, you'll find a psychologist who has probably talked about this, right? Who has gone, oh, this is why you should probably look at new things, blah blah blah. Those kind of things. It's why they actually advise, after 20 minutes of doing some work, take a break. have a walk, do something, and
The
then come
fresh
back
pair of
to it.
eyes thing, right?
Fresh
Exactly.
pair
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
eyes is such a big thing, and that used to make us nervous because we feel like, "Oh, this person with the fresh of a pair of eyes is gonna call us out and make us look bad." No, that person could actually work with you to make you look good, and we should always see these things as opportunities. So that whole communication, knowing when to bring a fresh pair of eyes, knowing, what data to be open to give, like which of our keywords are we deciding we're not optimizing on that maybe if we give to the PPC team and they start bidding on could show us whether we should actually spend our time working towards it. And even vice versa, if we want to start bidding on a keyword and we're like, oh, the CPCs of these keywords are really bad. And we actually then go, before we just decide to go, okay, no, we're gonna stop using it. We actually go, hey, SEO guys, can you maybe do some optimization in some areas for this keywords? And then that really improves our CPCs and works together. It's it's communication, but it takes a plan, conscientious effort, and something that you put in your calendar to be doing on a regular basis, not just, oh, I feel like speaking to the SEO guys today, so let me call somebody. Put it in the calendar. Put it in the calendar to be doing it on a regular basis to catch up. And yeah, you'll definitely see a lot of benefit from that.
Yeah, I love that idea of having different teams getting together once a month and sharing ideas or whatever it is. There was a conversation I was having last year where we were talking about the the kind of the power of bringing in those fresh eyes, even from like less experienced people. Take
Oh,
somebody who's less technical, like an account manager or a project manager or a CEO or whoever it is. They might not be as trained as much of a specialist in the PPC side or the SEO side, but they might have that little creative spark and be like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. That's a really cool idea. I would never have thought of that. But because, exactly said, zooming out and getting that bigger picture, somebody like a project manager or an account manager has that bigger picture perspective,
mhm.
can get a different idea of like, oh, maybe we should be doing this instead of that. Or have you thought about while you're bidding on these terms, think about also building content around these terms and then ta-da,
Yeah.
synergy, horrible word, but synergy, making it all work together. There's that real element of zooming out to see the bigger picture, right? I think when it comes to being aware and, like you said, communicating
Mhm.
with, okay, if you say you and I are both freelance, we're working on the same account, I'm doing their SEO, you're doing their PPC. You've been working on the account for 3 years and I've just joined. What kind of terms are you bidding on? What are we looking at? Like,
Yeah.
what's been your strategy? What's worked? What hasn't? And like you said, balancing that with your content strategy from an organic point of view allows you to then get much better return on investment and value
Yeah.
for your clients or whoever you're reporting to in terms of shareholders and stakeholders as well. There's so much benefit there from just that little bit of, like you said, once a week, once a month, whatever you can fit into your calendar, actually sitting down and having that conversation, kind of like we're doing now, right? So,
Yeah. No, these kind of things are definitely very important because you kind of we can be burdened, and as we've touched on already, we can be burdened with knowledge and experience, and yeah, if people want to see that whole, oh, this person has been working in this industry for 15 years, but it's actually that person who's been working for 15 years that's probably missing a lot of things because lots of things are changing so many times. And but we're all like, oh yeah, this is how things were done when I started, and because you've been doing things the same way and you feel like if you just do things the same way, things are gonna work. Oh no, we need the new person coming in going, actually, let's do something different here because like even like AI, there's something cool I found with AI, and it's about mixing the old with the new. It's mixing with the experience with the brand new to come up with something brand new and trying to do something innovative for your accounts.
yeah, definitely. I think when it comes to that, like you said, especially if you've been working on an account for a long time and you're really like getting stuck in there and you kind of get, I want to say lazy, maybe a bit comfortable. Let's use
Yeah.
that term
Okay.
instead.
Yeah. Let's
Bit
go
comfortable.
uncomfortable, but yeah, I know I've met lazy people. I can't.
Oh, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. There are definitely that people in the industry, but I know I've encountered it if I've worked on an account for a long time where you kind of just get into the same rhythm, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's a content strategy, whether it's a campaign for building links, whether that's checking out and doing your little regular audits and checks in your PPC accounts as well. You kind of get into the same rhythm of like, oh, it's the same, 20 terms here and it's the same campaign here. We
Mm.
know to use this kind of bidding strategy on this one, and let's just keep it the same for the next until it stops working.
Yeah.
Rather than trying something new and coming up with new ideas, I
Mhm.
found having those conversations and sparking those new ideas can just like open up a whole new world of possibilities you didn't even think of.
Yeah.
Like I was working with an e-commerce client last year and we were talking about all the great content we've built for them and how that works for them and stuff. But I was kind of running out of ideas of like, okay, I've basically covered all of your main product categories here in terms of the content and talking about it and making it relevant to your audience who are buying those products
Yeah.
and to bring new people in. What do we do now? And they're like, well, have you thought about this thing or thinking
Right.
about this thing? And it created like a whole nother 12-month plan, right? You then spins off into this huge thing. And then you have a conversation with the PPC team, with the UX team, with the
Yeah.
website developers, whoever it is,
Yep.
and they have a bunch of ideas as well. And then suddenly this whole new strategy comes out of
Yeah.
nowhere.
Yeah.
And it came from just a, I wonder what we should do next kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And it can be as simple as that sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people, and I think once you really encourage that kind of conversations to happen, you'll be surprised as the nuggets information that comes from like the website designer, from like CRO person. When historically they probably just are like, oh, they don't care what we think. Yeah, we'll just keep our great ideas to ourselves. But if you then make it clear that, look, our intent is to make sure that everyone works together, they will then let you know what they could be doing that could improve what you're doing, and like the ideas of what you could be doing that will really be, even like pushing what you could be doing based on what they've done, because you don't know what the opportunities are until you speak to the person who created that bit of the thing that is there. Like even for example, for paid search, it's one thing that I still think is still important to do right now, um, is like the landing pages, getting out copy from the landing page. I know everybody's like, "Oh, use AI." But honestly, knowing the landing pages, knowing what the customers have thought about this product or this service, and those are the kind of things that, it's the customer service team in that company that, gets that information. It's a totally different department. People don't think about, okay, actually, let's talk to the customer service team, the sales team. So, so what has worked for them? Those kind of communication is very important so that you actually know how far you can go with what you're doing, because it'll be limiting if you don't talk to people.
Yeah, that conversation, I know a lot of people have talked about that. The importance of that conversation with the sales team and actually getting those real world experiences you won't find from your typical tools, right? Digging
Yeah.
around in whatever PPC tool or whatever SEO tool you're using, actually having a real life conversation with what's the number one question you get asked when people call or when you call them or when they complain about issues with this, our product, our service, whatever it is you're selling. Then have a conversation with that customer service team who deal with that stuff day in and day out. What is the number
Mhm.
one thing people are asking to improve or struggle to use or complain about? Oh, our product doesn't last long enough. It's too big. It's too small. It's the wrong color. All
Mm,
this kind of stuff.
mm.
That's the way you can get a better idea of what people are searching for, even outside of, like I said, using tools. Because at the end of the day, tools are not going to give you 100% of the data. We know this
Yeah.
from years of people talking about the zero volume search and no click
Yep.
searches and all this kind of
Yep.
stuff. And especially, we've said the word AI, the dreaded word that always comes up on every podcast,
Yep.
unavoidable at this point. But
Yeah.
with the growing use of AI in both PPC and SEO,
Mm.
for me, and I know this was my tip in SEO in 2025, the book and podcast we did with Majestic, it's that kind of brand authenticity, which feels
Mm.
like a kind of gross word and feels very marketingy. It is, but I
It
think it's that
is.
it's that human element, right? And I
Yeah.
love the way you mentioned landing pages there. I had that revelation, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago, and this was a previous agency, and I was doing their SEO stuff and some of the social stuff, and like they were working with an external PPC team, and the PPC team had built a landing page and then told me about it, and I was like, oh, well, I was thinking about doing a post or an article about that topic pretty much anyway. So would you mind if I tweaked this here and did this there and collaborated with that? Then this landing page can also be or serve us organically on the search and also work as a landing page for paid
Oh,
search. And because
absolutely.
they thought like, oh yeah, we're just gonna kind of no index it and don't worry about it or whatever, or not link to it on the in the blog or not link to it in the main menu or whatever it was. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, that'd work organically as well.
Yeah.
Let's work together in here and plan that. Do you find that from your experience of like getting those landing pages that can serve multiple different masters and work in different ways?
Absolutely, and oh god, that paid search person that you said just was like, "Oh, let's not know." I want to talk, go to them. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Never do that." Because if you're gonna create it for PPC, I think paid search for definitely underestimate how much if SEO affects PPC. And we're always talking about all these costs and things that, like, yeah, Google is very much a major part of it, of like pushing our costs up. But what are we doing? Like, it's like people are sitting there waiting for Google to bring the cost down. That's not gonna happen, guys. That's not gonna happen. Like, they're doing it. They're trying to make money for their shareholders and their board members. It's your job to now mitigate and actually go, wait, how low can we go? What's the best ways for us to still get the volume but not spend as much? If budgets are tight, yeah, let's see. And SEO is a major way of doing that. So even if you didn't technically even have like a project that you were working on in mind, that you can tell them, oh no, let's make sure, we drive as organic traffic. I think by default, you shouldn't create a PPC landing page and not think about SEO. Yeah,
I think it happens a
you
lot,
really
mate. It
shouldn't.
happens a lot, definitely.
Wow, that's amazing.
Like I said, it blew my mind. It hadn't even occurred. I was fairly new to the PPC side of things. I've been in my previous agency. I did a little bit of everything before specializing in SEO, and it was a real kind of thing of like, it hadn't even occurred to me that somebody would do that. So that's a weird idea. Like, why
Yeah,
wouldn't you link to it in your main content structure? Why wouldn't you link to it on the main menu? All this kind of stuff. And I even had that conversation with them about page quality score. The score you see in Google Ads when it comes to what your landing page is doing. And
yeah,
I know a lot of people think of them again as very separate things. I read it and I was like, this is basically SEO best practice. This is essentially doing what you exactly as we're
yeah,
saying. You
yeah,
are talking to people, you are communicating to humans, to potential customers, to potential collaborators, whatever
mhm,
it is. It's that kind of thing where you think, oh, I'm going to be useful to my clients. I'm going to be useful to my customers.
yeah,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
that's marketing.
yeah,
That's communicating. That's the whole thing. That's everything. And it blew my mind where it was, you separate out into like click-through rates and ad relevance and page experience and all this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, we have page experience in SEO as well. Like just make it helpful content, like
yeah,
being Google's kind of
yeah,
thing there. It's a really good way from my perspective to get a really rough idea of like, is this page going to work for SEO? Is it going to work for paid? Get an idea of your quality score. Again, don't
I
make that your Bible
no,
necessarily,
no, it
but
should be
as a
directional,
guideline.
not yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. It blew my mind how much of it was just like, yeah, this not literally copied word for word from the Google search side of things, but it was very close. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh, okay. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, I've been doing this already, so that sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And something that I've learned from like SEO friends, people who are like, yeah, they love talking to me. Like PPC, we try to have discussions about crossovers, and they realize that a lot of like the SEO documentation, of course, because Google is not making money per each of your clicks, Google doesn't give you guys a lot of love. But Google will give the paid search department a lot of love because yeah, we are spending, that's how they're making their profits, and they're increasing their revenue, and everything is from PPC. So there's always like my job is busy when it comes to like writing for search engine land in terms of the latest Google's latest update. Google's always telling us like, this is the new ways of using this is how you use PMAX, this is how you use that, this is this is what you're allowed to do, this is what you're not allowed to do. So that we can prevent disapprovals, because obviously if there's a lot of disapprovals on our end, that means they're not getting the money. So they're all really trying to prevent these disapprovals. But Google are not really caring about SEOs being, writing content that's not going to work, because if it doesn't work, they don't lose that much, revenue. from that kind of thing. So that's another great reason for SEOs and PPCs to really work, close together. So for SEOs to ask PPCs, this thing that we're doing, has Google's mentioned anything for you guys that will be similar, that will really help us to what kind of content we should write, what kind of things that we should be doing, those kind of stuff. So I mean, yeah, they are the famous like core updates that you guys have been getting, like,
We
but that's
literally named a newsletter after it, mate. Yeah, we did.
yeah, yeah. How recently, how long ago have they been doing core updates like that? They're actually really communicating what changes have
A
they done.
while now. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
there's been I know there's been the move over the last year or so where kind of everything is now a core update. It's all kind of rolled into one. I think is more of what Google is talking about now. Off the top of my head, I don't know when when they first used that term necessarily,
Right.
but when it comes to, I know they've definitely mentioned, like I mentioned, helpful content earlier. Obviously,
Yes.
the infamous helpful content update that absolutely killed a bunch of affiliates late last year and even earlier in 2023 through to 2024 as well. There's been that real kind of shift towards, this is now just a part of the algorithm, for want of a better phrase. This is now
Yeah.
part of the system, and it's going to be a broad system update for Google ranking systems.
Yeah.
And for me, when that comes to that kind of, there's less nuance on it now. It's not like, oh, this one's focused on links, this one's focused on specifically on image optimization, this one's focused on this thing. It, for me, lets you see that broader picture once again. You're thinking about it as a more holistic, full kind of service approach when it comes
Mm.
to that idea of the content you're creating, the websites you're building, the structure of your site, whatever it is. There's that element of, if we build links here, that's going to, get us, you mentioned earlier, like getting rejected by ads or getting penalties on Google search.
Hmm.
That you can do that if you're doing some dodgy stuff, but if you kind of follow the best practices and follow and be very white hat about it, to use the SEO term,
Yeah.
you can get along. You can still get along pretty well. And you sparked an idea here. I don't know if it exists. If it does already exist, I apologize, viewers and listeners. Has there been a study that compares Google search best practice guidelines and Google ads best practice guidelines,
Yeah.
and like how much of it crosses over, like how much
Yeah.
changes? I kind of half jokingly said like, oh, quality score is basically the same as SEO best practice. It is.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested to find out how much of that actually crosses over. Like from
Yeah.
Google's perspective, how similar is that thing when it comes to matching search intent, when it comes to providing helpful content for users? How much of that does actually, like, do they use the same terminology? Is it slightly different? All
Mm.
this kind of stuff. I don't know. Maybe there's some, speaking of AI, there's some LLM thing we could be doing there to
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
cross-reference
Yeah.
all of
'Cause
Google's guidelines and compare the two.
yeah. Yeah. I think like yeah, with the Google ads, like, like our best practices, they are mainly based around, the different metrics that we have, like our different impressions, whether it's impressions or clicks or cost per clicks or like, ROAS targets and those kind of stuff. And against the campaign types. So there'll be best practices for PMAX or demand gen or it's like audience targeting, those kind of stuff. Which because there is such like an intricate way of creating campaigns. I mean, it's made our jobs like easy and hard because it's like it's easy because we're like, it's all about different types of campaigns, but actually knowing what to do for all those different kind of campaigns can be difficult. Whilst with SEO, and look, massive, I've got a lot of respect for SEO. I've done dabble, as I said, I've dabbled in SEO, so guys don't take this the wrong way, but I feel like with SEO, it's like trying to do one thing, trying to make sure the content is as good as possible. So it's almost like you guys have one campaign type, but it's also a lot of work, and all it's a lot of work. Totally know. And there's the technical SEO, then there's the, writing the content, and there's offline, the PR sides of things. So yeah, those are like the three major areas that, that I'm aware of. Please add to that, guys, if I've got that wrong. Um, yeah, I probably have got that wrong. People are
No,
probably saying, I know you've missed something.
I think the general rule of thumb is like the three golden pillars of SEO are links, the technical health of your site, for want of a better phrase, so technical SEO and content.
And
Like those
content,
are
yeah.
the three. That's the absolute foundational basis of every good website, every good SEO campaign,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. And I know there's been a lot of, I don't want to say clashes necessarily, but we'll say clashes between SEO and PPC. question or a phrase I've heard a lot is, if you're already organically ranking for that keyword, don't spend your PPC budget on it. And I can totally see the logic behind that. I think that can be true in some cases. I've seen it work for clients and not work for clients. From your experience, talking to SEO teams, talking to the organic side of things, is that always true? Is it sometimes, is it, dare we say, the SEO phrase of it depends? Are you allowed to say that as a
steal
PPC?
that phrase. I love.
Are you allowed to as a PPC? I don't know. That's our word.
It is our
It depends.
phrase. I do not know how at some point, all of a sudden, I was hearing SEO folks going, oh yeah, the SEO phrase. I was like, wait a minute. I've been saying it depends since I started working in paid search. What do you mean it's an SEO phrase? It's a search marketing phrase, guys. It's very
That's
much
it.
a
That's the
search
answer.
marketing phrase. Of course, it depends. It depends on the industry, the brand. It depends on, time of the day. It depends on, I don't know, seasonality, all different kind of things. It very much definitely depends. And it's all about testing and see. Testing and see. And sometimes it'll make sense to, sometimes it will not make sense to. Um, yeah, it's very much a test and see. Sometimes and especially if you want like an integrated strategy, a very big impactful like time for me was when I was working with this brand that I was in-house, and we'd really worked well with different departments, like even like when they were doing TV ads. So they'll let us know what's going on with TV ads. And when our brand is mentioned, we wanted to take over the whole SERP. Like literally
Yep.
wanted to be seen front, top, middle, and bottom everywhere. So depending on the campaign, you might do it like, okay, for this particular campaign, we really want to be a bit OTT on that search on that search page, and let everyone know that, yeah, we are, no competition is gonna get into the way of this. Because I think it's also even like correlates with the whole like conversation about, do you bid on brand? Because you should easily, take up most of that space when, if it's your brand, if you optimize your landing page properly, and that's it, and you shouldn't bid on it. Again, it very much depends. You might see that incremental revenue. You might see that incremental revenue during the time, and if you see that incremental revenue, yeah, do it. Once that incremental revenue starts tailing off, stop doing it. And I think that's the important thing of where not just paid search but search marketing is evolving into. you know yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if it's breaking, do fix it. If it's you're seeing the same thing you're doing is not getting you the results you want, try something different for sure. But don't also be afraid to come back to something that stopped working before. Like maybe like if a different timing has happened, enough time has passed, something has changed in the marketing area, different things have happened. Maybe go back to that thing that you're like, oh, that stopped working. Maybe we should test it, again, and see whether it'll work. So don't throw ideas out of the window for forever. Stop doing it if it stops working, but bring it back into the fold if you see an opportunity for it to work again.
Yeah, definitely. I love that you mentioned testing there, because I think that's such a thing that has kind of been adopted by a lot of the SEO community, whether that's, SEO testing or Search Pilot, a lot of the tools that allow you to do that kind of
Mhm.
A/B testing when you're adjusting page titles or changing internal links or even adjusting the structure of your and format of your page, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's that real power behind the data. Like you said, don't just make a decision because, oh, no, we need to make a change.
Yeah.
There should be a reason for that. If you're still working with that existing strategy, stick with it, see how it goes. If you think you can improve, give it a go. And I love the way you get much quicker feedback from Google Ads and PPC and even paid social stuff as well than you do compared to the organic side of things.
Yeah.
You can change your page title or, adjust the copy or re-optimize or however you want to put it and change your organic content and not see anything change for weeks or maybe months,
Right.
depending on how long it'll take Google to recrawl and re-index all that stuff.
Yeah.
But with PPC, you can see changes within minutes, right?
Yep.
It's incredible. And I think that's a real powerful way for you to test out ideas and then be like, oh, no, maybe, I'll draw that back a bit, rather than having to wait weeks for the recrawling and the re-indexing. Be like, actually, no,
Yeah.
I'll change that. Oh, tweak that, change that, test this.
Yeah.
A/B test these two titles against each other, see which one gets more clicks, all that
Mm,
kind of stuff. That's
yeah.
a really, really cool way to do little tests without having to write a whole new blog post, write a whole new piece of content. Being able to test like that, I think, is a really powerful way to get quicker feedback, essentially.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's definitely yeah, that underutilized that whole like, the PPC area of like test something, but be prepared to pull the plug, be prepared to not be precious with this one idea and that kind of thing. I mean, yeah, give it enough time, but don't be precious in that thing of like just keeping it going because you'll see the data quickly. The data will quickly tell you whether you're on the right path or not.
Yeah, you and I have both worked as writers and editors in our time, and not being precious with stuff is something you learn very quickly as a writer.
Oh, yes. Yes, yeah. Sometimes when I write and what got published, I'm like, "Wait, okay, I guess that's what's that's what's gonna work." Absolutely, yeah.
I love what you said earlier, working with even like video campaigns and stuff like that,
Mhm.
outside of even talking about the internet. Say they're running a TV ad or, God forbid, a
Even
radio ad in
yeah,
2025 or whatever it is, a billboard,
absolutely right, billboard, like
celebrity,
on the
whatever.
train ad. Yeah.
A trainer, exactly, perfect. You're on the side of a bus, you're in the tube in London, whatever it is. Having that, like you said, that full like scope of, oh, as soon as somebody searches for your brand or searches for the thing that you are working on, your new product, your new service, whatever it is, there's that real like, oh, they are everywhere. They are
Yes,
unavoidable.
yes.
Again, the classic thing that I keep quoting this number. I don't know how true it is. I think this is a quote from like 10 years ago. The whole, it takes someone 9 times to see a brand before they actually commit to being a customer. There's
Yeah,
that kind of thing,
yeah,
like,
uh-huh.
you see a train ad, you see a Facebook ad, you see them on
Mhm,
YouTube, you hear them on a podcast,
yeah,
you see them here. Oh, then you see the Google ad and you click on the Google ad. It's like, ah, right, yeah, eventually, God, this name keeps cropping wherever I go, this brand keeps cropping up. I should probably check them out, I guess. There's that kind of element to it, right? And as much as we are obviously coming from the SEO and PPC side of things, there's a whole side of offline non-digital marketing, for
yeah.
not normal marketing.
Word of mouth, all the stuff that you
Yeah,
talk about
absolutely.
over Christmas, like over Christmas dinner, that kind of thing of like, "Oh, yeah, I love this new brand." Like, how do you and this is where, like, it can be a bit of a headache for us in the paid search world, but, like, talking about attribution. So which one? Which
Oof.
one do we put much more money towards because it's the one that's making more money? And no, it's, I would say it's almost impossible, if not impossible, to actually accurately measure it, but don't don't underestimate where you need to be seen. Like, don't go, "Oh, I can't see the dollar return on display ads or even on TV ads, so therefore I'm not gonna do it." And then all of a sudden you actually see your paid search tanking and you're like, "There's no searches coming through," paid search, and you're like, "Why?" Yeah, because you messed up in other channels that you did. That's exactly why. So yeah, never underestimate even like the channels that are hard to measure.
Yeah, and there was a brilliant quote. We did the big kind of end of year podcast with Arnout, Yammer, and Begum at the end of 2024, and Arnout had a brilliant quote of what's the conversion rate of a newspaper ad? It's like, how the hell do you measure that stuff, right?
Right?
But
Yeah,
that doesn't mean it doesn't have value. Not
yeah,
everything has to be driven by ROI and CTR and
no,
CRO and all this kind of stuff and all the other 3-letter
yeah,
abbreviations that we talk about so
right.
often in digital marketing.
Oh,
And I think
acronym.
exactly all the acronyms you can think of. And for me, there was something, again, having a conversation many times last year where it comes to that alignment between different channels. And obviously, here at Search with Canada, we kind of come from that organic perspective. But I have definitely seen this and experienced this where you click on an ad on
Mm.
Google Ads or on social ads or whatever it is, and it ends up landing you on a page that has nothing to do with the thing you clicked on. Obviously, we talked
Yeah.
about ad relevance earlier, right? But I
Yeah.
think brand alignment and consistency across the different platforms. So, say, for example, this is not a good idea, I hasten to
Mm.
add, but say, for example, you just co-opt an existing landing page for your paid ad. You don't create a new one. There's a perfectly decent article or product page or whatever it is there, but your ad is more specifically targeted towards a particular group of people. Again, because you have specific targeting powers in PPC that we don't have in SEO, You could be targeting it towards a specific location, a specific audience,
Yeah.
and then you click on that thing and it's something like, well, that's not for me. I don't live in Glasgow. I don't live in London. So why are you sending me to that page? That
Mm,
doesn't make any sense. For
mm,
me, that brand alignment combined with, as we said, the communication across all the different teams. So
yeah.
we're all, speaking
On the
from the
same
same page,
page.
singing from the same hymn sheet.
Mhm.
That's the key to, for me, to get invested in a brand, to understand, oh, yeah, I should check them out now. I've seen them for the third, fourth, fifth, 10th time, whatever it
Mm,
is. If
mm.
I can see that it's consistent and it, aligns with the thing I'm interested in, my values, all that kind of stuff, that's where the magic happens for me. And
Yeah.
that's where I become, you know, properly a customer or even, God forbid, a brand evangelist for a company as well.
An influencer, maybe
Oh,
even.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
a more crazy word. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I th I love that kind of the mixed messages we often get from, like you said, from the data and then from the people. Like we were saying earlier, have
Yeah.
that conversation with the customer service person, and then you look at the actual search volume, or you look at the data
Yeah.
you're getting from whether that's the Google Ad platform, whether that's an SEO tool. You can really see big differences there. What do you think more people should be doing to kind of make those things line up? How do you justify taking the word of the sales team versus what you're seeing in the data? How do you kind of have that conversation of like, oh yeah, okay, I think we should go in this direction, or test this out and go in that way?
Oh yeah, that's difficult. That's difficult. You need it's that's something that you hopefully you've built trust over time. That's something that should have been your day-to-day job of like
Don't go in day one with that.
no, exactly. Don't go in day one with that, definitely. Build trust of doing, what they want you to do, even if it doesn't make sense to you for a while. Because it doesn't make sense to you for a while doesn't mean they're asking you to do the wrong things as well. So you need to make sure you're working with into the system of what they want. Because, you know, the higher ups like, the head of marketing or the CMO is asking you to do something that in his experience or her experience is going to help drive revenue for the company. And at the end of the day, that's what you want to do as well. So, you want to make sure you figure that out and you want to make sure that you can tie those numbers together. That's some of the fantastic SEO talks that I've gone to is when an SEO is talking about how to really, yeah, not just talk about in metrics of like, yeah, we need to increase search volume because of XYZ. And they're like, and a CMO is going, I don't care about search volume, I care about revenue. And ensuring that whatever your idea you're going to bring up ahead speaks to what's important to the person that you're speaking to, right? Yeah, the idea is great. Yeah, that the testing just, just makes sense. And even that other person might actually know it definitely makes sense. But if they cannot make the tie of what you're going to do is going to help revenue or profit or what's important for them at that point in time, it's a wasted effort. And even though it's a great idea, I'd argue it's actually your fault that it doesn't get yeah, it doesn't go ahead. It's not just the person who's saying no to you, it's you not actually trying to make it make sense to how it ties with the objective, with the goals. So really realizing what the objectives are, the goals are, what's a particular pain point that is happening for them. People, the higher ups make decisions because of a particular strategy, not just because they woke up one morning and they're bored. There's a strategy they're working towards, and there's a CEO they're trying to please as well. So making sure you're having conversations around, hey, what's our next quarter's strategy? What's really the biggest pain point that biggest really turnaround that's really important for the company to see, at this point in time? Knowing those kind of, it doesn't directly relate to your data kind of information. Those kind of the conversations that happen over lunch, the conversations that happen, like at a very child after work drinks, those kind of really figuring out what's the whole, what the thing I think you guys should do the solution is the thing that you think is important for us to change. Making those ties, that is what you really is really important for you to actually try to do it if you're going to get anywhere into actually convincing it. It's not about you being right. It's about your idea fixing your audience's problem. It's the whole idea, it's the whole idea of, like, doing even marketing and doing creating any product. Like, with PPC Live, my events, I think to myself, "I need to stop being precious about, 'Oh, guys, don't you realize how amazing there's no other PPC event like mine?'" And, been sitting around just thinking that I can do the bare minimum and just think everyone will come. It takes daily communication of going, "Oh, I understand your pain point. I understand what your pain point is, and that is what I'm trying to deliver." And making sure you communicate that. It starts with, "I understand what your pain point is, and my solution that I've got here directly speaks to your pain point." That is how you win someone over in terms of trying to tell them, "Let's listen to the salesperson," instead of maybe the data that might be showing something different.
Yeah, 100%. I love the two we just mentioned alignment, right, in terms of
Yeah.
brand and tone of voice and all that stuff. But you're totally right that the pain points and the other side of it, the goals, objectives, KPIs, and all that kind of stuff need to also be aligned.
Yeah.
Having that conversation with the PPC team, with the developers, with the UX team, whatever it is, where you get an idea of, okay, we're going to be working together on this, in-house account, or whether you're working agency side or freelance as well. What are your goals? What has the client said to you? Like, oh, we need to make them this much money this year,
Mhm.
or we need to drive this many clicks, because that is a very different approach to the
Yeah.
strategy. And you were kind of then able to tie it into your thing as well. Is one of you trying to make money and the other one trying to drive clicks, and the other,
Yeah.
then nobody's actually working together. And it turns out that actually the client really cares about money. Surprise, surprise. Most clients care about money, exactly as you said,
Absolutely.
Annie.
Yeah.
At the end of
Yeah.
the day, the CMO and CFO and CEO are all going to think, yeah, but how much money did that
How much
make us
money
at the
am
end of
I
the day?
gonna make? And then how much money am I gonna lose? All of
Exactly,
that.
exactly, exactly. There's that alignment of goals and objectives that I think is hugely important and underestimated, because
Yeah.
you can have brainstorming sessions, you can do all the all the stuff we've been talking about earlier on in the show. I think that is still hugely relevant and can be really helpful. But start off essentially almost with like an onboarding call, right? With
Yeah.
the other teams. I've had it, and there was a really nice couple of experiences where when we were onboarded onto a client account as an agency, they brought on their PBC and the developers and them. So we had an
Right.
initial call with the clients and be like,
Yep.
yeah, everything's cool. Here's our strategy. And then they were like, right, we're going to get everyone together on the same call. So
Mm.
it is transparent. We're all open with each other. There's no weird like, oh, it's SEO versus PPC, and
Yeah.
don't steal my ideas and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No,
Let's all
no.
work together. So we're
Yeah.
all working together. And having the client, or if you're working in house, the shareholders and stakeholders and the bosses and the C suite and all that kind of thing, having them there to be like, actually, I think we should be pivoting in this direction. Like you said,
Mm.
they've got strategies, they've got ideas. There's a reason they're running the businesses the way they are running them.
Yeah.
They can guide you in that direction and help you guys work better together, even without that kind of initial step of, oh, I should get in touch with them. Get in touch with them already and build, like you said, build that relationship. And
Yeah.
I've worked with some brilliant PPC agencies that have gone on, and we've worked on multiple clients together over the
Oh,
years.
yeah.
Been like, oh yeah, this works really well. And like I said, terrible experiences with landing pages as well. But both sides of things. But I
Yeah.
think, yeah, alignment, whether that's the brand and the imagery and the tone of voice or the goals, is a
Yeah.
huge, huge part of this. And that's
Yeah.
how we all end up working together more smoothly, essentially, right?
Absolutely. I think, like, people underestimate, you know, who people forget, lose focus of who they're working for, or what. Yeah, I really do think, I think people just think that, oh, I'm trying to do the best job ever in terms of, let's say, like my PPC, and trying to, make the most money and drive make sure we keep spending more, because that's what growth means. And if we spend more, we'll gain more revenue. But like it's this can be classic cases of some brands, let's say like a smaller brand that has like a sales, like maybe 5 people in their sales team, and you're like, "Oh, I'm driving you so many leads," and they're like, "Yeah, too many. We actually
We
need you to hold
we
back.
we had that exact conversation with the client last year. Some of our PR campaigns and SEO content and stuff like that was going so well. We're like, we've got too many leads. We don't know what to do now. I'm like, sorry.
Yeah, and you do have to say sorry because you're thinking, "Oh, yeah, I'm doing this great job," and you're driving everywhere, and you're like, dude, too much. We actually need you to be going in a different direction." Or it could be
Yeah,
leads that are just not good quality. It's like all these leads, and
absolutely.
then they're like, "Oh, but why are but yeah, but our revenue is not increasing." And they're like, "What? But we're sending all these leads." They're like, "Yeah, but
Nobody's
they're shit
converting.
leads. Have you
Yeah,
talked to the salespeople? They cannot close. They cannot close these leads, and we're not getting the revenue." So yeah, volume is not always what you want. It's not always good volume. So, yeah, figuring that out, very important.
definitely. I think that understanding, I know that the marketing funnel phrase is kind of outdated at this point, but understanding those different points of awareness and purchasing and conversions and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
I still think is hugely relevant for
definitely.
having that, like you said, that full service strategy, right? Whether
Mhm.
you're building a kind of awareness campaign from the PR perspective and then thinking about some really super targeted, high intent, high conversion stuff from a PPC side, and then you're covering a lot of the middle with the SEO side of things. The only way you're going to do that and cover the whole thing is if you all work together and communicate and have those conversations.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you can, as much as we said earlier about, you can work together and build a landing page that should work for both organic and paid.
yeah,
You can also end up stepping on each other's toes as well, right?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
we were already doing that. Why are you doing that now? Like we've
Yeah,
already done
yeah,
that. Stop,
absolutely. Yeah,
that's working. Leave that alone.
it's
Don't stop
working.
touching
We
that.
have the data for it. We know what we
Exactly.
should be doing. Yeah, move
That
ahead.
that's making us loads of money. Stop fiddling with things.
Right? Yeah, communication.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So, from your perspective, Annie, from as the representative of the PPC world here, what do you think is something that SEO should learn from PPC? What is something that probably more SEO focused listeners and viewers of Search with Canada should go and be more aware of in terms of PPC?
Um, it's something that the one thing that comes to mind because I we should also not underestimate the fact that yeah, PPC and SEO is different. The way you go about this, it as I as I said, PPC is very much like our different campaigns, the best practices for different campaigns, and as you said, SEO has the main three pillars. But what I think is really good to know, but we've actually talked about that a few times, is the fact that we do get a lot more Google trying to direct how,
Mm,
what's good content. As you said before, it can take you guys maybe like, 3 months for you to test something for you to see the results. We'll see the results. We can see the result almost immediately. And actually, Google is actually trying to make sure that they tell us the things that will prevent us from being disapproved because if our ads get disapproved, they lose revenue. And they are trying to not lose revenue. So they want to help us keep spending money, you know. They don't, trying to figure out, after the click happens, whether the revenue is doing well. That's they don't care about that. They had their money. They've taken their money to the bank. Um, but so yeah, I think that's a good thing for people for SEO folks to have at the back of their mind to actually talk to Google more. That's what SEO should have them at the back of their mind to inspire them to talk to PPC folks a bit more. Get maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, like articles released by Google saying that this is happening. This is gonna get deprecated. This way of doing things is gonna get your ad disapproved. This is a way that's gonna, ensure that you keep your ads rolling and that kind of stuff. So, you know, trying to continue having those kind of conversations because you might just learn something that Google has not told you guys about because they don't care about whether you guys your ads don't show or your listing doesn't show. But they've told us, and that would help you on how to put a content together or what your structure should be like. Because yeah, they're definitely doing things more around, like with AI, with all the AI updates and everything as much as they're affecting both PPC and SEO, they will tell us the things that will prevent us from getting disapproved, and that will actually affect landing pages. That will actually affect how long it takes, like page speed. Those kind of things have become a lot more important for us for PPC as well, because for PPC the click might still happen, meaning the money goes through, but that things like page speed has become a lot more important for us, and the thing doesn't land properly, the customer doesn't goes away, doesn't the is not actually converting. So that really are starting to affect us. So PPC folks, and this for me, this is only me talking to PPC folks again, which is talking to PPC folks. You should speak to SEO folks about, really helping us with the page speeds as well, because our money is getting spent. We're not getting the revenue. Like, our head of department is going, "What the hell? Why are you spending so much money?" And we're not seeing any of that, converting. So there is a lot to be done in terms of like knowing why you should speak to each other, because PPC folks do get a lot of attention from Google. Google get a lot of, and there's loads of people now, even like on LinkedIn, that will tell you about every little tiny update, every little change that's happened, in terms of like, especially with our bidding, with smart bidding, where we now know that, ad scheduling is not possible anymore. We cannot affect what times of the day that our ads show. And this is another thing that we can even learn. I think our PPC is actually getting into um an era of being a lot more like SEO, as in
Mm.
we have a lot less control, and you guys have never had control. You guys just try to do as the best as you can for the content and hope your ads show as often as possible. But is there anything like even ad scheduling, or in terms of with SEO, in terms of like you don't want your landing pages to be showing for search at a certain time of day? You see, we've been having that for a while. They'll tell us when that starts or stops, or which bidding strategies will affect, which is what has been considered in different bidding strategies. So yeah, I think, yeah, I know I've almost flipped that. We should really, PPC folks should also be talking to a lot of SEO folks a lot more often as well, because you guys know how to deal with Google just, yeah, giving you no control. And we are getting into that phase of working as well. So yeah, I think I answered your question and then answered another question. Sorry. I hope
No,
I did.
absolutely. But I feel like you guys want to come and join us in the dark, chaotic waters of it depends, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
See?
yeah, okay, fair
Oh,
enough,
look
fair
at
enough. I
that.
guess you guys have a right to use "It Depends" a lot more often,
For
but
you, for
yeah,
you, you have all the data. You have all the you have a direct line to Google. Your best mates with Google. That's easy. Like you can just have an answer straight away, right? We're just
yeah,
stuck here swimming around in the dark, hoping for the best. It depends.
yeah. Google is taking a lot of that data from us, though. The whole
True.
fact that
Yeah.
with search queries, what our searches are showing, our ads are what exact searches our ads are showing against, or, actually driving the revenue,
Like you
even
said,
like
like smart bidding and all that kind of
and
stuff
the
as well.
smart
Like
bidding
I
stuff.
know
Yeah,
it's been a conscious decision from us here at Canada. Our PBC team was very, very small to begin with anyway, but we've completely stepped back from it now because of that lack of control, because of
yeah.
that element of I don't know, like if you start this smart bidding campaign, Google is going to kind of optimize it. And I found a lot of the times when looking at those kind of campaigns, Google was like, "Oh, you should be spending more." I'm like, "Yeah, you would say
Always.
that, Google.
Of
Yeah,
course,
yeah.
always.
You want more money, so you want me to spend more money. Like, did you know you could get 3 times the conversions by spending 10 times more money?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's how money works.
Yeah, right?
Like,
Yeah, it's
you
maths,
can
man,
you can get
Google.
more
Do not
stuff with
not
more
tell
money."
you.
I'm like, "Yeah, I know, Google.
The
I don't
code,
have that
see?
money. That's not an option." "Oh, then you
Oh,
get a 6 out of 10." Like, "What? I don't
yeah.
control the budgets, Google. That's not my fault." So you're right. You're right. You are
Oh,
you are
God.
perhaps joining us in the lack of control and the scary
Yeah,
times of
yeah.
uh hopefully here we go. We'll see what happens.
Something will work. Hopefully, it might work. It really would depend whether this performance max campaign will work. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Oh, gosh.
But let's finish on a positive note, shall we, rather than
Yeah.
the scary darkness that is not knowing how Google works. Where can people follow you, Annie? Where can people follow PPC Live, PPC Chat, PPC Chat Roundup? all the awesome stuff you're doing, even the brilliant articles you're writing for Search Engine Land that we often feature on the newsletter, by the way.
Oh,
Uh,
lovely.
where's the best place to follow you and all the amazing things you're doing?
The areas that I would say that are primary. I'm on LinkedIn nearly every day. If I just search for my name, you'll see all the things I post on. I try to do a bit of a personal branding thingy, on LinkedIn. So yeah, and I'll talk about the articles I'm posting about. I am still on Twitter as well because I know folks are on Twitter, and yeah, we share about all the articles that that we write about on there as well. So yeah, those are the two major ones for PPC Live, for PPC Chat, for the articles I write. The primary ones are find me on LinkedIn, find me on Twitter. But if you literally search for the marketing Anu, you'll then find all the other different platforms I could be on. And yeah, we got my site at the marketing anu.com. There's a site there as well for some of all the stuff that I'm working on. So yeah, would love to interact with you guys wherever you feel comfortable.
Amazing. So if you do want to learn a little bit more about PPC, folks, you want to go and check out events in London, and I know you do stuff around Brighton SEO as well. Like if you guys
Yes.
are attending events and stuff like that, there is an opportunity to learn more about PPC through PPC Live, through PPC Chat, and the Slack and the podcasts, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This is all part of this conversation, right? Learning a little bit more. The reason I listen to your podcast is because I don't do PPC.
Right.
I wanna know what's going on. So it's perfect opportunity, folks. If you are, I'm sure you are mostly SEO focused, to go and check out Anu and all the amazing stuff you're doing. Learn more about PPC so you can get a better understanding when you do have to come to that conversation of, so we need you to have a chat with the PPC team. You're like, I remember Anu said this thing at this last event, or this speaker at PPC Live said this thing when I saw them
Yeah.
talk, and you'll be in the know. You'll be a step ahead already, right?
Yeah. And I think it's really great for us to also, just realize that we're in this boat together of like Google is doing a lot of changes. There's a lot of AI stuff. And, if you think, the PPC folks know it all and I've got it all, like know exactly what to do. Oh, you'd be sorely mistaken. So it's a nice way to listen to these conversations and know that, oh my God, I'm not stupid. It's just that this is how the industry is now. There's so much changing, so much to keep up with. And as I said, we're all, my podcast is very much about everybody sharing the experiences of what they're seeing work and what maybe things that they're not seeing working so that you can be comfortable of like, okay, it's not me. It's actually that doesn't work. Or actually, this is something I've not thought about. Okay, yeah, let me try that. And, let me see how to approach things. And we always also talk about even client communication. How do we approach this conversation? How do we approach this, as you asked earlier on, really like, selling to your head of department this idea that might not really make sense to him. We talk about our different experiences with that and, what different ways to how different ways to approach it. And these podcasts are very important for us to, hear, this whole, the stories of like, okay, I'm not alone in this kind of, I'm finding it difficult or, ooh, this is the thing I found difficult. This person has a solution. They're really important for us to listen and share. Let's break down that wall of like
Exactly.
siloed walls. There's no silos anymore. We work together, we win together. It's all about driving revenue for the brands that we work for, not just for your individual channel.
100%, mate. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And that's hopefully the takeaway you've got from this, folks, watching and listening.
Great.
Thank you so much for joining me, Anu. It's been a real pleasure to
Pleasure.
to pick your brains about PPC stuff and rant about PPC stuff and everything in between.
Yeah, you can't avoid doing ranting when you talk about BBC and SEO. You can't avoid it. Thank you so much, Jack. It's been such a pleasure being here.
And that wraps up this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you haven't already, please do rate us on Spotify, leave a comment down below. Spotify is basically YouTube now for video podcasts, so you can watch video at no extra cost on Spotify. There are no ads or anything like that from our side of things if you have the Spotify Premium. You also can leave comments and basically interact with us through there. So leave any questions, leave any comments you have on Spotify. You can, of course, do the same thing on YouTube and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We would hugely appreciate that in helping the podcast grow in 2025 because, oh boy, I've got some big plans. I've got some amazing guests coming up over the next week. Some people who I've spoken to for years and years and years. I know I said this a couple of times already, but it's really a year of how have you not been on the podcast before? We've known each other for years. I know you're amazing. I know you have brilliant ideas. Let's talk about them on the podcast. So stay tuned for amazing guests such as Sam Torres and Tori Gray from Graydot. Also, Sarah Deacon coming up talking about automation and how that can help your SEO processes. And I'll be talking with Itamar Blauer about the future of AI search and what Google needs to do to kind of start fighting back before they've lost the race, essentially. We're not necessarily on Google's side, but it is a really, really interesting conversation coming up in a couple of weeks. Of course, Mark and I are back next week, in fact, in the Canda studio. We're going to be talking about the value of tech SEO and how that might differ depending on your website and your client, how we can actually affect things when it comes to the consensus side of things, which is what Mark talked about a lot in the Search Norwich talk that he did. A lot of people, I think, have misconstrued or misunderstood or extrapolated maybe the wrong idea from the consensus score that was part of that data. Hopefully we can set the record straight for you. And also we're talking about long-term SEO depreciation of traffic, essentially, when you stop doing any SEO work. There's a great study by Will Critchlow that Mark and I dive into, and we talk about, maybe it's obvious to some people and not so obvious to others. I guess we'll find out. I think it's a really interesting conversation. Mark and I had a lot of fun tackling a few different topics and having a kind of general conversation. And yeah, stay tuned for that next week. Like I said, Itamar, Sam, Tori, Sarah, loads of other people coming up over the next few weeks as well. So please do stay tuned for that. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And I will see you next week.